Welcome to another video, and in today's video, as you can see from the title, we are finally going to harvest some of our pomegranate that we've been waiting for months. So we have two varieties. We actually have three varieties. The third one is the 8-ball that I purchased in the beginning of the year, but it is still in a pot. It is still very young, and I think by the end of this year we will then maybe consider putting it in the ground. But we've had these two pomegranates, different varieties, in the ground before I even started my homestead journey. So I wasn't able to document and tell you how it got to a point where it gave us these amazing fruits. But the third variety, as I mentioned, the 8-ball, is still in a pot, and maybe next year we'll decide to put it in the ground. Also, when we put these two in the ground, we didn't have a plan of the homestead, and the homestead has extended. Unfortunately, because these were in the ground, we had to work around it, and there's no ways I'm taking these two out, because what happened was 2 years ago, down at the bottom of the homestead, we had a lemon tree, and we actually took it out. It didn't recover very well. It's taken 2 years for it to actually get over the root shock and the transfer shock. So now that it started growing for the first time, I'm not going to be moving it, and we are just going to try and work around it. And I think it is possible. We'll just have to see. But it's the same story with these two pomegranates. They are unfortunately bang in the middle of this entrance, and when you turn the corner, this pomegranate is bam in the middle of that entrance. So we've had to try and work around it. It is possible, because all I'm going to do is just be trimming the side here in order to come through this side, and then we'll just next year just trim this branch off in order to make sure that we are able to walk through here. So guys, if you are deciding to plan a homestead, plan it where you make sure you know where your trees are going to be planted if they are going in the ground, and where your raised beds are going to be if you're using raised beds, and you won't make a mistake like I did. But let's get back to the video where we are going to be harvesting these most amazing pomegranates. So as I say, we've got three varieties. Third variety has not given us any fruits, but this tree gave us fruits for the very first time last year, and when I did a taste test, I was absolutely blown out the water. These pomegranates are the sweetest pomegranates I have ever come across, and they are so juicy. So today we are going to harvest two of them and leave the third one so that it just matures, and do a taste test. We've already harvested three off of the second variety of pomegranate, and I did do a taste test on that one. And when I say stay to the end of the video is because I won't be taking this out, but I've got other plans for it. And the reason being is that when we tried the variety out, it is so sour. Very, very sour variety. I try to leave some of the pomegranates on a little bit longer to see maybe they would get sweeter. So we got one more on this tree. And what we're going to do is I'm going to open it and I'm going to taste it and take you on a taste test experience to see how they are tasting today. I don't think it's going to change any more than it did last week, but who knows, maybe it's just a little bit sweeter. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is make sure that our pruners have been sanitized. So this morning I actually gave my prunes a nice clean up, make sure it had no rust on it. And now I'm just going to take some 70% alcohol, give it a spray. The reason for this is that if you've used your pruners on any other trees or plants that potentially had any disease, you don't want that disease transferring onto your fruit trees. So very important to make sure that you clean your pruners. So let's harvest the very first ones. And this one's quite a tricky one because, there you go. Look at this. So when I saw this growing for the first time, I saw two flowers that obviously both pollinated and started bearing this little fruit. I actually thought one of them was going to fall off eventually, but it proved me wrong. They both grew. I've never seen this. Comment below if you've ever seen two pomegranates grown on a stem like this. Cool. So now I've taken the Siamese twins apart. They look amazing. I'm going to leave the third one on the tree a little bit longer, and then we'll be able to taste test this. So we just got one more to harvest from the other variety. Okay, so just remember, we've just pruned the fruits off of this tree, and you want to sanitize before pruning off another tree. Okay, so see how gorgeous this one is. It's a little bit more red on the skin, where the other one goes a little bit more pale. I know that this has got a bit of a sourness to it. I've just left the leaves on here so that I can identify it when I do the taste test. But let's talk a little bit about soil and fertilizer. So pomegranate trees like a well-drained sandy loam or loomy soil types, and a pH between 5.5 and 7. If you plant your pomegranate trees in the ground like we do, we have very heavy clay soil. So what we've had to do is make sure that when we planted the trees that it had really good well drainage soil. So we've just improvised the soil. We put some beautiful compost and topsoil and some other nutrients so that the clay soil will be able to become a little bit more rich with the nutrients. And we fertilize the pomegranates so that the nutrients can stay in that soil. So by doing that, you don't get the root rot if it is in clay soil, because what's going to happen is clay soil is so dense that the water can't escape. It becomes waterlogged and your roots start rotting, and then the tree will finally die because there's just way too much water. A formula high in potassium and phosphorus, such as a 10-10-20, will definitely promote flowering and the growth of fruits. Okay, so we've got our two pomegranates. This one is from this tree. This pomegranate is from this tree. So I'm very curious to see this tree, and let's do this. It is so juicy, it is literally just oozing out the side here. Okay, let's see how this tastes. It's still very sour. It's so sour that you can't not pull your face. Extremely juicy, but the only thing I don't like about this variety is that even though I harvest one of the pomegranates nearly a month ago and the other two weeks ago, and now the last one on the tree now, it should have sweetened up if it was a sweeter variety. So now I know that this pomegranate variety is not a sweet variety but more a sour variety, and the sweetness is hardly there because of the sourness just kicking in and throwing that sweetness away. So is this my favorite pomegranate or will I keep it? No, this variety is not a very pleasant variety for me because every time I eat it, I kind of like squint, and there's just so much you can actually have. So stick to the end of the video and I'll tell you exactly what we're going to be doing with this variety. But let's now taste this one. They gave us the most amazing, juiciest and sweetest pomegranates, and I want to see if it is still the same. It's definitely juicy. Look at that. Here we go. That's it. Okay, so if you ever buy pomegranate juice and you pour a glass, it is so sweet, it's beautiful, it's just a mouthful of summer. And this variety is still the same as last year. It is juicy, it is sweet. Sourness is hardly there because it's so sweet. So if you look at this pomegranate is the sweet one, and it looks just like the other sour variety. So absolutely happy that this is the second year this is bearing fruit and that the taste is still the same as last season. Unfortunately, with this variety, I said that we are going to be doing something different with this tree, and because I don't want to just uproot it, the rootstock is quite good and it's a strong, healthy tree. So for the very first time, I am going to try next season to graft on this tree. I'm going to have to do a lot of research because I've never grafted, and I actually want to start grafting the fig trees because it's something that I've been growing for the last 3 years, and for the last year I've been collecting different varieties from friends, families, and other social media friends. And now that I have rooted them in that, I'm going to be starting to experiment with grafting. But for the pomegranate, I heard that you are able to graft, and instead of taking this tree out, I'm going to try and graft sweeter varieties on this and see if it works out. And for those who have a very small homestead or a balcony, don't forget that pomegranates can be planted in pots. It will still bear fruit. It might not be as big as the plants that you put in the ground, but if you go and check out all my other videos, I talk to you guys about planting fruit trees in pots and containers, and that is very possible for it to bear fruit. We have a nectarine tree that's in a big pot and it gives us over 20 nectarines. We have a plum tree that's in a pot, and for the first time this season it gave us these most beautiful sultana plums. So it is very possible to grow fruit trees in containers, in pots, even if you're on a small homestead. So give it a shot and comment below if you do have pomegranates and what varieties you grow on your homestead. Until next time, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe so you don't miss out on any more content, and let's learn together as we grow together. I'll see you in the next video.